fantastic. This is GT racing right now.
He's got traction, he's got rhythm, both of them! Maloney!
Oh, he's taken Anderson! Anderson's up top!
Oh my god! Oh. Big crash! Oh my goodness, half the field's gonna get rolled!
Six very close. These guys are want to make their way through the field very quickly.
Oh, there we go!
Oh no! That's massive! This is it! This is over! I can't believe this! Oh my god!
God, what?
This is the original esport racing game. This is iRacing.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the iRacing Esports Network, proudly presented by SimSpeed TV. Tonight we are bringing you round number 12, the final round, in fact, of the Aussie Driver Search iRacing V8 Supercars official series. And tonight we will be bringing you a fantastic 29-lap race here in Imola, Italy, at the Autodromo Enzo Edino Ferrari. A very famous track that I'm sure many of us are very familiar with. And once again, a track we wouldn't normally see these Aussie V8 supercars flying around, but thanks to the iRacing service, we do have that fantastic opportunity to bring you a unique event this evening. And joining me in presenting this event tonight is Mr. Cameron Dance, and on the keys is Jay Kennedy. Now, obviously, Cam, a big night for a couple of guys this evening. We've got three guys in the championship contention, all looking at walking away with an Aussie Driver Search entry, and it's going to be a very interesting evening this evening.
Yeah, absolutely. The points is not quite an unsaleable lead for Dane Warren, but it almost is. So it's going to be really, really close. It's really just going to be up to who wins tonight. I mean, so far, Brady Myers, who sits in second place, 72 points behind Dane, is pretty much at the top of the timesheets with a 44.313. So he's got the advantage at the moment, but it's going to be, yeah, really, really interesting to see how tonight goes, especially with I think one pit stop, I'm pretty sure, with it being a 75% fuel limit or 84 litres.
Yeah, I believe we will be seeing a pit stop this evening, and I think that Dane Warren's pretty much got this tied up unless he has a particularly poor finish, and Brady Myers or Marlon McMullen have anything to do with it. As you said, Brady's sitting on top of the timesheets at the moment. Marlon McMullen has a little bit of work to do, but we've also got a couple of other entries. One I was just about to mention is Mr. Six Sideways himself, Kazuki Umeshima, the Japanese driver, who we love seeing come out into these races so often, and he has put himself on top of the timesheets, but he's quickly slashed away by Dane Warren, the man in charge of this champion. As it stands, notice Kazuki had a particularly slow outlap, which definitely helped him there. Brett Loxton's jumped above of Kazuki though, and a couple of other drivers we'd expect to be at the point end of the field still yet to complete all of their laps as well. But it's going to be a very interesting race here this evening. We've been here at Imola a few times in the V8 Supercars, and I can't recall a single time it has disappointed us in any way, shape or form. So there's always generally some really good racing throughout the entire field. As we can see, the top 16 cars at the moment separated by just under 1 second, and I suspect that a couple of those cars that are further down the order might actually jump up a little bit. It is a fairly hot track temp this evening, 39 degrees, and at 1:30 in the afternoon server time, we may see that temperature rise just a little bit as well. Obviously, we might get a little bit of cloud cover, but we will have to see. Winds are fairly low at the moment. All the drivers, though, electing to take their second lap, and as we watch Kazuki Umeshima come to the end, of his final qualifying lap. What will he be able to do? He comes across the line, and it is a 1:44.301, so marginally slower for Kazuki Umeshima. Consistency obviously strong and a good sign for the race to come for him. Andrew Gilliam, a man who has done a bit of successful racing in this series, just finishing his lap as well. And Sam Blacklock, now this is a man who should definitely be higher than 28th position, the two-time champion coming across the line now. What is he going to be able to put his Altus Esports machine up into on the grid? And it's not as good as I would have expected, but 14th position there for Sam Blacklock, much better than where he was sitting prior to that.
Yes, Sam quite actually further down the order than he normally is, sitting down in 14th, possibly not quite got the pace tonight or this week, so it'll be interesting to see how well he goes in the race and whether he can claw any positions back that he might have lost in qualifying.
It is very difficult, it has to be said, to get in a really good lap here around Imola. There are so many curbs and so many different parts of the track you just need to hit so critically to get that perfect lap time. And the man who's beaten them all at that is Dane Warren for Logitech G Altus Esports. He takes pole position from KRF's Brett Loxton, who's been putting in fantastic performances throughout this series. Kazuki Umeshima in the Radicals car will start from 3rd position on the grid alongside TTL Esports' Brady Myers. Ethan Warren in the Astro Gaming Altus Esports car starts from 5th position, with Cooper Webster from Evolution Racing Team in 6th. Michael Cracknell for KRF starts from 7th position, with Brenton Hobson for Synergy Sim Racing in 8th. Jackson Suslan Harlow for TTL Esports starts in 9th, and Andrew Gilliam for Pursuit Sim Racing will round out the top 10.
And just behind Gilliam, we have Corey Preston and Dean O'Brien in 11th, 12th, Emily Jones and Sam Blacklock just behind those two. Then we go back to John Ross and Chris Coxhead, Michael Tunley, Art Sitch, Malik McMahon, and then riding out the top 20 is Brian Borkin, Damian Johnson.
Yes, then we have a Lee Ellis. I know a lot of people will be going absolutely nuts in the chat over him right now. Go Lee. Job Stewart for CMR team will start from 22nd position. Justin Wallace in 23rd. Greg Sharp will round out row 12 of the grid, and Guy Leach and Mitchell McLeod will follow him in 24th and 25th and 26th, pardon me. And then we have Jack Boyd, who had some action in an Aussie racing car on the weekend at Adelaide, so good to see him, a real racer, coming into this series as well. And we've seen him a few times in that Gone Rogue Motorsports machine. Jamie Stovall, Christian Smart, Kip Stevens, and James Duckworth unable to set a lap time. Dane Warren not worrying about that though. He's got his foot to the floor in his Ford Falcon, and it is go time here at Imola. He is away, and a nice start from the Altus Esports driver, Kazuki Umeshima, already hustling Brett Lock. Come down into turn 1, a fantastic start from the Japanese driver as they come down into turn 1, though Brett Loxton's not going to make it easy. He's going to go around the outside in the ERT car. Oh, there's a car around us, Cooper Webster just behind them, and he manages to
Preston off.
That's Gilliam and Corey Preston have had a huge accident as they come out of turn number 3 there, and that is a big one for Corey. Looks like some rear damage to that car. Andrew Gilliam off once again. Job Stewart having a bit of a battle there, and there's a couple of cars going 2 by 2 further back in the field here as we come through the hairpin section there. Cooper Webster got turned massively sideways as they came through that first section of corners there. He's managed to regain his composure for the time being, and it looks like a relatively unscathed Evolution Racing Team car there. Brendan Hobson, though, quick to start applying pressure to him in the early stage of this race. And we'll get Odom simulation replay of this earlier incident here so we can see Corey Preston a little bit loose there, and looks like, just a bit of a checkup there. Might have been a slowdown from one of the KRF machines. He was trying to clear on the inside there, and Andrew Gilliam has had to check up. I think that was Michael Cracknell, so we'll just have a look here. Michael, look at that! The TTL Esports machine behind, and Michael Cracknell's had a big moment there, and unfortunately, that has put Andrew Gilliam and Corey Preston in a particularly unfortunate spot. think that was Suslan Harlow in the background there. And Jack Boyd, the drama continues here at Imola. Jack Boyd has gone off at the final corner and is missing some of the panel work. Emily Jones has also had an incident back in the pit lane, and Ethan Warren is now under attack from Kazuki Umeshima.
Yeah, currently there's a battle going on quite for that final podium position between Myers and Mishima and Warren. Brady, of course, trying to gain as many points as he possibly can towards that championship, but Dane Warren at the moment is just sailing away with that lead, so Brady's got a bit of work to do to try and regain any points that he could possibly lose, but that battle for the podium is definitely well and truly on between these three.
Yeah, Kazuki looking to get back that position, which he seems to have lost from Ethan in the early stages of this race. We did see Kazuki with a good start there, and unfortunately not coming out on top of Brett Loxton as they came through turn 1 and 2, but Ethan Warren has done a good job to recuperate a couple of positions in the opening couple of laps of this race. You can see how aggressively he launches his Commodore over those curbs there. That's one of the great things about these V8 supercars, is just how much you can throw them at these corners and how many of these curbs take. And Kazuki Umeshima goes for a late move down the inside. Ethan Warren spots it there, and he's going to give him some racing room as they come through the final corner. A little bit of a bump there, which just unsettles Kazuki, and he's going to lose all of his run that he had, and now he's going to come under attack from Brenton Hobson here in the Synergy Sim racing cars. They drag race down the straight here at Imola. Brian Jackson, is that
Brady Myers.
Brady Myers is getting involved in it as well. He's done a fantastic job to get up alongside me. Little bit of contact there, little bit of a hip and shoulder, and Ethan Warren is taking a lot of heat here in this little pack up the front. That's checked it up enough that now Cooper Webster is going to have an opportunity to get involved for this final spot on the podium as well.
Yeah, absolutely. It's definitely going on between these three. Hobson's come out of nowhere from where he was to get into what is effectively podium contention, but Brady's managed to get the job done and stay ahead, but he's got to try and hunt down Ethan Warren at the moment and defend from Brenton Hobson as well.
Yes, and it's not going to be an easy thing to do, but he's doing a good job, and we know that Brady is very strong in these V8 supercars, so we'll see how his performance continues. Jordan, a man who used to race with Synergy Sim Racing, now in an Evolution Racing Team car, starting to apply a little bit of pressure here to Dean O'Brien in that OPR car, and once again launching over those curbs so immensely. Ethan Warren at the head of this train now, and there's now 5-6 cars pursuing him very intently as they come down into these final section of corners here at Imola. Such a hard part of the track, especially in these V8 supercars. Want to understeer all the way through these corners, and they are so difficult to pull up, especially going down that hill in the first sequence of that corners. But everyone's managed to travel through nicely this time by, as we see Ethan Warren of angry V8 supercars, all from different teams, exception of ERT, who's got a couple at this stage. And who's looking strong at the back of that pack is Jordan Ross, we were talking about just a moment ago. Applying lots of pressure to Dean O'Brien now, who's doing very well, currently sitting in 8th position, up from 12th, and in the 28th numbered car out of our 31 runners here this evening. That is a very impressive job. A little bit of a rub from Jordan as they come through that hairpin section there. Looks like Brady's starting to claw in a little bit of that gap at the front of that pack there. And Brenton Hobson applying a good amount of pressure and giving the hurry up to Brady as well. He doesn't want to fall off the lead of this train, but not quite lapping as fast as the guys up ahead. He's about a second a lap slower at the moment, or 0.6 to Brett Loxton. So he's got to try and look forward, not look so much in the mirror at all those cars that are behind him, and try and get back up to those guys at the front. Especially Brady will be desperate to get past, as you said, Cam, wanting to reclaim all those championship points.
Yeah, absolutely. This guy's really late on the brakes there to try and close that gap to Ethan Warren. He's got to try and think about this though, and that He's got to really, really get a good run onto the main straight to get the pass done at turn 1. He showed us that he can get the job done nearly despite a little bit of contact earlier on, but yeah, it's going to be really, really hard work for him at this stage. As now there's a battle going on behind them between Webster and Omashima. As now Omashima's going to have to go defensive from Webster, but Webster's not quite going to be close enough. Have a look, but not quite. But the battle behind them between Ross and O'Brien, and Ross has managed to get on by O'Brien.
Yeah, nice job there from Jordan Ross, slicing his way through at turn number 1. Very good news indeed, and getting to see that from the back of Kazuki Umeshima there, who does look to be struggling in the early stage of this race. Notice that his car seems to be running particularly low, or particularly, I was going to say low at the rear, but it could just be that it's very high at the front there, using a lot of front ride height on that car, and it sits back quite aggressively as he comes down the straights there. But he's got a little bit of work to do, does Kazuki, who we have seen of course, come away with some fantastic results in this V8 Supercar Series. And that's Brendan Hobson running wide into Aqua Minerale there, and that's going to cost him big time. He might even lose a position to Kazuki here if he's not careful, taking a little bit of a defensive line, comes back across the track. So he's very lucky there not to lose a position there with Brendan Hobson, but he's lost a lot of ground to Brady up ahead of him, and now he's put himself into the clutches of Kazuki. And Kazuki Umeshima is definitely not a man I want in my rearview mirror. Very aggressive racer and very fast as well. As we said though, looking particularly strong in the early stage of this race is Cooper Webster's applying a little bit of pressure, but look how much Kazuki's car is just pulling away from Cooper at this stage. And I don't know if it's because Cooper's got a little bit of damage on that car, or as I mentioned, Kazuki is running the front of that car extremely high compared to, and that might just be giving him a little bit of a straight line speed advantage here at Imola, but it's not enough to get him up to Brendan Hobson at the moment. He's gonna have to look for somewhere else to do it. Another battle that's brewing further back in the field is Chris Coxhead and Marlon McMullen, as we take to them now. And Marlon McMullen is another man who is in contention for this championship and looking to get past the Zuva racing entry of Chris Coxhead there. Is put in some fantastic top 10 and even a couple of top 5, and I think maybe even a podium performance as Chris Coxhead in the last couple of seasons of the iRacing V8 Supercars official series. And good to see him battling with the two-time champion further back in the field. But the battle for the final position on the podium is starting to spice up just a little bit now. Brady Myers has done a great job bringing in Ethan Warren now, and Ethan definitely going to be feeling the pressure from that TTL Esports machine. His mirrors are going to be full of black and orange, and just noticed as well that Jordan Ross has actually gotten past on his teammate Cooper Webster, so not sure if they've decided to trade places there. Knowing young Cooper Webster, I wouldn't be surprised if there was a little bit of there were no team orders regarding that one, so see if Jordan Ross is able to progress any better than his teammate at the moment. We're on board now with Brady Myers, who might just have a run here on Ethan Warren into turn 1. You can see that overspeed starting to build, but is it too late? Is he going to have enough? He's not. He backs out earlier than he probably would have if he was going for just trying to reserve a little bit of fuel perhaps and play a bit of a different strategy. Of course, we're expecting cars to come in before lap 21. We think they have about 20 to 22 laps of fuel on board for the start of this race, which means that if someone really wanted to try a big undercut, we could expect to see them doing that as early as the next 3 or so laps. And we mentioned at the beginning of the broadcast, track temperature 39 has only gone up a degree at this stage, but with that higher track temperature, some guys might decide that now is the time to come in and get tyres. We're already seeing some times dropping off as much as 7/10 of a second in the first 7 laps of this race. So you can imagine if you come in about 4 or 5 laps earlier than your opponents and have 7/10 of a second per lap on them, that can really take you further up the road and give you some great track position. Even though you might not be as strong towards the end of the race, if you think you can defend it, it might just be the strategy for you. So we'll be interested to see if any cars do decide to come into the pits in the next couple of laps. But we are expecting this race to go on for nearly 50 minutes, and I dare say that most guys will probably go for the middle of the race to try and put as little pressure on those Dunlop tyres as they possibly can. Looking back towards the rear end of the field, Lee Ellis coming under a bit of an attack here from Christian Smart in the Gone Rogue Motorsports machine. And if I'm not mistaken, that is the JMSR car of Corey Preston, who we saw tangled up in an incident earlier, has continued to press on in this race and is starting to make up some positions as well. Has to be said though, Andrew Gilliam, who was also not far, was involved in that Preston incident, is much further up the road, currently sitting in 20th, so he's been progressing very nicely. Still not the ideal situation for him, I'm sure, but doing it to recover the unfortunate incident at the beginning of that race. And Sam Blacklock's also started to jump up on the rear of the One Performance racing car of Dean O'Brien here, who's just been passed in the last few laps by the Evolution Racing Team cars. So Sam starting to get his stride a little bit here. He's up a couple of spots. He's up 4 positions from the start of this race, and just starting to find a little bit of consistency now. And currently lapping considerably faster than both of the ERT cars, and about on pace with Jordan Ross. Or yeah, he's just on pace with Jordan Ross, but a little bit faster there than Cooper Webster, and considerably faster than Dean O'Brien as we see them come down into the final section of corners now. And probably not the best place to make a move, but Sam will be setting himself up here for a move down the front straight. So he wants a nice wide entry there so he can get the car as straight out as possible, and gets a little bit of oversteer, just the ever so slightest amount to turn the car there. Looks like he's got a pretty good run here, so we can see now closing in, and wonder if he'll be able to get it. Do switch to Brady Myers though, who's been getting very close to the back, and Sam Blacklock very close indeed, almost rubbing the bumper of Dean O'Brien as they come into the first section of corners there, but not able to get him this time by.
Yeah, Sam's doesn't quite seem to have the pace through the corners. He's really, really good under brakes, and he's really good in a straight line with that draft. But we've got McMullen currently on screen battling with Chris Coxhead just ahead of him, and it's really close. McMullen's all over the back of him, but just can't quite get it done. Has a look up the inside, a bit of contact to try and unseal Coxhead, but he's let him go, so not quite going to get the job done. And just behind them, Susan Harlow isn't too far.
No, well, we've seen Chris Coxhead before. He is not a man who likes to give up a position very easily. I can think back to a couple of battles between him and Riley Blythe, who's another very aggressive, and Chris is definitely not going to give that one up easy, and Mr. Two-time Marlon McMullen there finding that out, and maybe losing a little bit of his front bumper, finding out that lesson as well. Brady Myers now has a good run here on Ethan Warren, hunting all over the back of the Astro Gaming Alta C Sports car there, not able to do anything, but once again he'll be looking to set himself up here. We see a bit of a wider line there from Brady. That's just going to give him a little bit of extra momentum on the exit of the corner. He wants to make sure that the speed difference at the end of the straight is as great as possible, but it's not going to be good enough if he's too far back as he comes out of that corner. And it looks like this time by, once again, he just wasn't quite there on the exit of the corner. Had some good speed down the end of the straight, as a man who we are not surprised to see coming into the pits for a bit of an alternate strategy, Michael Taliancic. We're the first to break, and McMullen just copping a little bit of the grass on the entry into that corner in the braking zone there, and just having to give up a little bit of the advantage that he seemed to be pulling on Chris Coxhead here, who's been doing a great job defending, but was losing a little bit of time to the competitors around him. And I think even Michael Taliancic might have been the driver who was just up ahead of them, and wanting to get out of that and get himself a few positions. You can see Sam Blacklock and and Dane O'Brien in the One Performance Racing car up ahead. We're starting to, well, this battle's been brewing for a couple of laps now. Sam's been looking to get past Dean, but hasn't been able to find a way through so far. Copping a lot of curb on the inside to turn number 10 there. And that's, oh no, that's another incident for Corey Preston, who's going to spend no time hanging around. He's going to lose a lot of that rear tyre in the process though, and possibly, oh, he's gone a bit wide on the entry into that corner there and just caught out Christian Smart, who was taking a line closer to the apex of the corner there. And unfortunate for Corey Preston, who's had a race to forget. Now Sam Blacklock a little bit closer this time on the exit coming out of the final corner. He's got a bit of a run here. Dean O'Brien definitely has some horses under the of that OPR car, and is Ethan Warren being big time defensive now into turn number 1 on Brady Myers, who looked to have a bit of a run there, and Sam Blacklock has gotten the move done. Dean O'Brien going for the over-under, and he might just make something work. But Sam Blacklock has cut him off. It's going to be very difficult to make a move into this next section of corners. Definitely not out of the realms of impossibility, but you have to be feeling very, very brave to put it on. And Dean O'Brien, I think, knowing that one was coming the last couple of laps, is going to let it go and try and follow Sam up to the pack ahead. Chris Coxhead deciding that that battle with McMullen was costing him too much time. He's going to come in and go for the undercut, and now Brady Myers is in an excellent position. Maybe not connection-wise, but position-wise on the track. He's looking very good here to get past Ethan Warren. A little bit of a slide on the exit of turn number 10 then is going to hurt him a little bit. He just needs to remain a little bit closer through this final section of corners, and just in particular on that final corner, if he's really going to have anything to do. Within a car and a half at the moment is a good spot to be as they enter this final section of corners here. So good idea for Brady might just be to keep his normal line. He's not going to do that though. He's going to try and force Ethan into a little bit of a mistake, but I think that just carrying that extra speed through the corner rather than being aggressive is possibly hurting, or carrying that extra speed is going to help him so that he can be close to the car. Seems to be trying to push Easton's buttons there, and it's not helping him get past at the moment. Brenton Hobson, another man to come into the pits a little bit early and go for an undercut here, Cam.
Yeah, he's definitely decided to get out of traffic. He had a big slide out of the final corner on that lap as well. So it'll be interesting to see where he pops out in relation to when everybody else stops. But currently, Brady Myers still hounding the rear of that Astro Gaming Altus Esports hold on Commodore, as Brady getting very sideways on the exit curb. Both drivers pushing it extremely hard as Brady's trying to get a good exit. Doesn't quite get it, but had a solid mid-corner though. So he's really, really pushing hard. You may want to possibly start thinking about pitting as well, just to try and get some clean air and possibly put in some really, really good laps to get ahead of Ethan.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. I think some of these guys may be worried about the track temperature coming up towards the end of this race, and off a little from what we've seen so far, nearly 25 minutes into this race, track temperature hasn't risen very high, and we can probably expect that it will remain fairly similar for the rest of the race. It is fairly hot already. I can't imagine that too much more heat would make it any less drivable out there. So it definitely would be advantageous for someone to come in early out of this leading group here. Maybe Kazuki Umeshima should be the man to do it. Now, this is what Brady Myers has needed all of these laps. He's now pretty much on the rear bumper, and now he decides to come into the... So, interesting decision, as has Kazuki Umeshima, as has both of the ERT cars. And Sam Blacklock also deciding to stay out at this point as well. Marlon McMullen for CMR team coming in his... Job
Stewart as well.
Yes, and Chris Coxhead, one of the men... no, that can't be right. Well, Hobson, who is a man who is already pitted, he's making his way down into the final complex of corners now, and he was obviously very close to the pack of cars that has just pitted. So we'll wait and see where he's been able to come out. He's going to have to rely on...
Oh, Ross has jumped to Mishima.
So a good pit strategy there from the ERT driver. Kazuki Mishima going to fall back a position here in his Radicals entry. And we're going to see Brendan Hobson's going to slam them all as he comes down through the pack there and is going to have quite a lead over them. Not dramatic, but definitely a comfortable place to come out. He's not going to have any immediate pressure. Brady Myers, though, has come out just ahead of Brenton Hobson. And so Kazuki is now looking effectively to have lost 2 positions out of that, I want to say, but it could just be 1. But Jordan Ross definitely got him in the pits there. And just looking further back now, Damian Johnston and Justin Wallace, they're actually higher in position, but for the effective purposes of this result, it was Guy Leach I was looking at earlier, who I confused Chris Coxhead for, which I didn't think would be right. Our race leader, Dane Warren, on the pit road, which means that Brett Loxton will be able to rack up a couple of laps in the lead on the board. Sam Blacklock going to try and stay out a little bit longer, as does the other Zuva Racing entry for, I think that was Michael Cracknell, who's still out there as well. So Brady Myers now coming through the final section of corners, and Ethan Warren is in the pits also. So this is where his race effectively lies. Will he come out ahead of Brady here, or has Brady done enough on his outlap to pass the Altus Esports driver? Ethan Warren already away and rolling, but Brady has so much speed.
This is going to be close.
It looks like a very short fill there from Ethan Warren, and he's come considerably ahead. Oh no, sorry, I've gotten the Warrens confused. Has come out miles behind Brady and even behind Brendan Hobson as well.
Yes. Yeah, and Webster's also jumped Omashima as well, so Omashima's lost another position on that last lap, and that was really, really long stop for Ethan there. Much longer than what Brady was, so it's 2 seconds longer, so maybe a little bit extra fuel, possibly, or Brady's under fuel, it's not entirely sure, but that's a much quicker stop.
Brady has been sitting behind Ethan for a good majority of this race, so it's definitely not impossible that he's saved a little bit of fuel. 2 seconds worth of fuel, though, is a fairly considerable amount. I think that'd have to be at least 7 or so litres. And now Brett Loxton comes in pretty much on the halfway point of this race to, and as does Sam Blacklock and Michael Cracknell for KRF Motorsports as well. I suspect that Andrew Gilliam will also file into the pits this time, and he does right on cue. Brady Myers getting past Corey Preston there, and Corey just letting Brady through there fairly uninterrupted. We'll continue on with his race, which has definitely not been ideal for him. And we look back now to this train of cars headed by Ethan Warren, followed closely by Jordan Ross, Cooper Webster, and Kazuki Umeshima, who is now on the back of that pack. Has not been a good day for Kazuki so far, starting on the grid. He has continued to fall down through the field as... did I just see Brady Myers going past... I'm just going to make sure I saw that properly.
No, that was Loxton.
Brady is now second position. He's gotten past Brett Loxton in those pit stops. That's exactly what I thought I had seen. So that's a fantastic move there from Brady, and just came 1/10 of a second ahead of Brett Loxton there. Great.
Yeah, Brady was actually stopped for 2 seconds less than Brett, so yeah, that's not, maybe Brett overshot the pit box, I'm not entirely sure, but yeah, Brady's making massive gains at the moment and could possibly even catch up to Dane at some point at Brady's game.
Well, he does need to finish ahead of Dane to finish in the lead of this championship at the moment. Dane Warren has it all locked up in the bag, and Brady is going to have to pull out some inner fortitude and find some speed to get himself up to the Altus Esports driver if he wants to claim this title this evening. And he's been doing everything right so far, with the exception of perhaps, you would say, qualifying. He's worked his way all the way up into second now, and has 14 laps remaining to try and catch the Altus Esports driver, who is, by the way, about 4 seconds up the road. 4.2 seconds, I believe, is the gap at the moment. So it's not an unattainable gap, that is for sure. We have seen bigger gaps lost in shorter periods of time. And as we look back from Marlon McMullen to Dino O'Brien there, this continues on. So most of the cars have, in fact, all the cars with the exception of Kip Stevens has pitted so far. So the field has pretty much cleansed itself now, and we can see Brady Myers and Brett Loxton going to battle here. Now, Brett Loxton not so tied up in this championship battle. He's just here for glory, and don't we know that he likes to take it away, and he will fight until the bitter end to make sure that he comes out on top. You can see the aggression from Brett Loxton, how badly he wants to get past that TTL Esports car. He is really putting it on the line right now.
Yeah, absolutely. Loxton, remember, has a little bit better tyres than Myers does at the moment, so he'll have that pace advantage as Myers is going to go defensive, heading into the chicane. Loxton's going to force the issue and he'll get up the inside. You know, side by side to the chicane. That's not going to work. Bit of contact for good measure. And Myers carries on with the position being held. What a battle that was heading into there.
Yeah, and I think, I don't know if Brett Loxton was maybe forced into a slowdown there. It doesn't seem like he's having to give up any time. We'll give a modem simulation replay, and we saw Brett Loxton get some great traction, just as you were saying, that he had slightly newer tyres. I have no doubt that had something to do with it. Brady Myers trying to cover the inside there. Both of the drivers doing an exceptional job. A little bit of contact on the midpoint of that corner there, but with the amount of curb that Brett Loxton was taking, not surprising at all. Chris Coxhead suffering a slowdown and having to let 3 cars by in one go. Marlon McMullen, Dean O'Brien, and I think that was Jackson Suslin Harlow as well, all getting through. So get 2 for 1 on our modem simulations replay there. And Brett Loxton has already recovered quite a bit of that gap and is going to look to attack once again. And we look behind, Brenton Hobson, Ethan Warren still hanging around, and will not be afraid to attack if any blood gets in the water here.
Yeah, for sure. And one thing to also remember is that Blacklock's actually one of the more quicker drivers in this pack, so he could possibly be the fly in the ointment here coming a few laps time, and possibly get by the likes of Omashima, Webster, Ross, and even possibly Warren if he keeps this pace up that he's doing. He's currently doing, I believe, 44 or high 44s compared to the others who are doing low 45s, mid 44s. So it's going to be really, really interesting to see how this goes and whether he's actually going to be able to catch him. But Loxton is still all over the back of Myers, trying to regain that lost time.
Yes, and we see now Suslin Harlow just getting through on Dean O'Brien there. Nice move there for the TTL Esports driver, and just up ahead of them, Michael Talyancic is going to have to defend here from Michael Cracknell, who's Michael Talyancic as well. We saw him come in on lap number 12 of this race, and he has allegedly considerable amount of fuel saving to do. Brett Loxton now going for the outside to challenge for position number 2 there. Not going to be able to get it done. Had a little more success with that move on lap 1 against Kazuka Kiyomishima. Brady Myers, though, a little wiser to that one, and he's actually had to give up a considerable amount of time. But look how fantastic Brett Loxton is through that section of corners compared to Brady. Really pulling in a dramatic amount of time there, and great on the brakes into this hairpin as well. Maybe hard to say if Brady's just got no pace in that car right now, if he's taking a bit of life out of the tyres, or if he's conserving, as Chris Coxhead now goes for a move on Dean O'Brien as well, who was seemed to be the catch of the day for most of these drivers. Chris Coxhead, though, not quite able to get it done at the moment, as Michael Taliancic continues to have to defend here. Said he's doing a little bit of fuel saving, and I wonder if Brady Myers is as well. We did say his stop was considerably slower. He may be, that could be the reason that Brett Loxton is able to recover so much of the gap so quickly. And Hobson's also closing in as well. Oh, and that's crackers! And the KRF Motorsports machine is around. Get a modem simulation replay of that for you and just see what transpired for you, ladies and gentlemen. On the throttle, coming down into Aqua Minerale here, a very difficult section of track no matter what car you are doing it in. A little bit of curve there and looking good here, so this is probably arguably the most difficult part. Oh, bit of a check up there from Michael Taliancic, and just caught Michael Cracknell off guard, and unfortunately got looks like Marlon McMullen off guard as well, and got a little bit of a helping hand there from Marlon McMullen did Michael Cracknell there, so very unfortunate for him. Put in a solid race so far. Brett Loxton, his teammate, though, gonna try and make a move here on Brady Myers and bring back some of the glory to the KRF Motorsports team. Nothing would be better than that for him right now than to take away position number 2 from the TTL Esports driver of Brady Myers, who's used strategy to his advantage so far. Will it come back to bite him in the last 10 laps of this race? We'll have to see. And as we've said, Brenton Hobson, Ethan Warren, Jordan Ross, all lingering there in the background, and I'm sure very eager and will gladly take away a position from any of these drivers up ahead. But it does have to be said that Brett Loxton is looking very menacing. He's been constantly attacking Brady here. He's almost pushing him through that chicane there. Strong front end on that KRF Motorsports machine right now. Really, you can see the confidence that Brett Loxton had. Not so much into that braking zone. Jordan Ross in the background going down the inside. Hobson getting all crossed up, but making it work as they come through the final section of corners, and Brendan Hobson may be able to come back. He does indeed. He's going to try and go round the outside or down the inside. Cooper Webster, or sorry, pardon me, Jordan Ross going to have to make Hobbo make a decision here, and Hobbo's going to have to go for the outside, so that means he's going to have to be
Myers knocks them both off.
Oh, Brady Myers and Loxton are off, and Brady Myers is going to have to clear a slowdown there. Ethan Warren has gone through, and Brett Loxton may be quite close enough to capitalise there. We'll just stick with this battle for a moment as Hobbo goes through. Bit of a rub there with Jordan Ross, and Cooper Webster now going to try and follow his teammate through on the inside line here. Hobbo going to try and muscle his way back onto that line. He's going to have good speed coming off the exit here. Might be able to hold off that challenge from Cooper Webster, but Jordan Ross has secured that position. Hobbo going round the outside. The young man Cooper Webster, VRT on the inside, side by side through turn number 8. Great driving from both of these drivers. This is such a difficult part of the track to get through 2x2. They're going to get it done though in Aqua Minerale. They just squeezed through, and there's a great move from Cooper Webster around the outside. Kazuki Umashima is going to get in on the action and go down the inside into this final chicane. Is he going to get it done? He might just, as he goes round the outside, and it's been absolute punishment for Brendan Hobson these last couple of corners, but Kazuki Umashima cannot quite get it done unless he goes for the lunge in the braking zone, and he might, but he pulls it back in, and that was some great driving from all those competitors there, and Sam Blacklock is now hungry. We'll get a modem simulation and take it through us, Cap.
Yeah, it was really close there. So close. That TTL car just didn't quite have the run, but yeah, really close. And Loxton had a really good draft heading down the front straight. Had the move not quite done, but he gave Brady Myers a bit of a bump draft, a little bit of contact, which then unsettled Brady, and both of them actually into the brake zone. Brady had to go straight off, and same with Loxton, who struggled to pull it up, both having to clear slowdowns, which then allowed, obviously, Warren to catch up to...
And we'll go back to the live race, thanks to Modem Simulation for the replay. And wow, that was a very tense move for both of those drivers coming down into turn 1 there. Not sure that gravel trap would have been as forgiving in real life for both of those drivers, but thanks to iRacing for keeping those ones fairly silky smooth for us to get through to the other side. Andrew Gilliam and Guy Leach having a little bit of a battle there. Guy Leach in the KRF Motorsports machine looking down the inside, but Andrew Gilliam brakes much more confidently. He's going to go around the outside there into turn number 9 and takes away that position from Guy Leach. And since that incident earlier on the race, Andrew Gilliam has done a fantastic job. He's recovered he's almost recovered himself to his starting position of 10th, currently up into 15th, but was as low as I think earlier in this race after an unfortunate incident involving a couple of cars. But Jackson Suslan-Harlow is now applying Taliantic, who we think has been doing a little bit of fuel saving. The first one of our competitors to come into the pits this evening and having to go a little bit longer on this second stint of, and Jackson Suslan-Harlow going to go down the inside, late and confident on the brakes. Taliantic not giving much room though, and rightly so. Up on 2 wheels goes Suslan-Harlow, and not quite able to get that move done. A little bit of a rub for Michael Taliantic there in the Pursuit Sim Racing car, but no harm, no foul for either of those drivers. They continue on racing, but I suspect that Suslan-Harlow might get a little bit fired up by that one, and you can see the aggression coming from the TTL Esports driver now. He's right on the back of Taliantic, and he also doesn't want to become susceptible to Dean O'Brien here, or Chris Coxhead even behind as well. Good run through that corner for Suslan-Harlow. Got some good traction in that car. Looking down the inside there, but a wise move to back out of that one and go for it somewhere else. Kazuki Umeshima now goes for the move on Brenton Hobson, and he's going to get the move done where he was not able to get it done earlier. And he moves himself up into position number 7. Oh, and that is a very tricky move there for Jackson Suslan-Harlow, who gets a little bit of an over-under done on him there by Dean O'Brien in the OPR car. Great move. And Chris Coxhead, the Zoo Racing entry, goes for the outside. Wants to get in on this action as well. Turns in a little bit early there and cops a rear quarter of Jackson Suslan-Harlow. And we'll have to look for another opportunity. But very interesting move down into the hairpin there between both those drivers. Dane Warren out at the front of this field continues to pull away, continues to put on a commanding, almost up to an 8-second lead now over second place Brady Myers. Brett Loxton struggling to reclaim that gap up to third. Got Ethan Warren and Jordan Ross with Cooper Webster tucked in behind him. Sam Blacklock has done a great job to get up into 7th place. He's under pressure now though from Kazuki Umeshima, who has just gotten past Brenton Hobson. In position number 8 now is Kazuki, so Sam Blacklock has done a great job. He's currently up 7 positions in this race. He's one of the biggest movers in this race, with the exception of Guy Leach, Marlon McMullen and Jordan Ross, who are on 9, 8 and 10 spots up respectively. So some big movers throughout this one. But one of Sam's biggest challenges is going to come now, because Kazuki Umeshima is looking very good, and Hobo behind him getting very uneasy as he comes out of Aqua Minerale there. Very testing corner on both entry and on traction, and yes, everywhere in between as well. And Synergy Sim Racer having a little bit of trouble getting the power down as he came up the hill there. Damien Johnston, the Gone Rogue Motorsports machine, having a little bit of a scrap with Greg Sharp in the Stealth Sims Force car in position number 18 and 19 there. Just behind them as well, they have Job Stewart in the number 30 car there for CMR team has unfortunately not got that brilliant fluoro yellow and grey livery on this evening. But Kazuki Umeshima is showing his intentions as clearly as he can. He wants to find a past Sam Blacklock, the two-time official V8 Supercar champion. And we're just hearing from the race director as well that something has happened to Brady Myers. Now, we've seen him flashing in and out throughout this race. I wonder if he's having a bit of a connection issue at the moment. See him come back into view. His quality, his connection quality has dropped significantly. And we'll have to see if he comes back into view shortly.
Yeah, I think Brady is having a few internet issues at the moment. It may very well be game over at this point with that quality still dropping. He still hasn't reappeared at this point, so might end up seeing a message from the server saying throughput, which would absolutely be dreadful for Brady after putting on such a drive to get second. But at the moment, it's still going on further back. And Dan O'Brien's actually just been DQ'd due to incidents, so that's a position unfortunately gone for Dan O'Brien, who was doing so well, being so far up in the field as well.
Yes, well, he was getting in amongst it, and he wasn't afraid to get his elbows out with a lot of those drivers that came through earlier in the race. And unfortunately, one incident too many, and we have just got confirmation, ladies and gentlemen, that Brady Myers has suffered some sort of technical failure, whether it be related to his computer or his internet, as we saw Dean there just touch the outside curb on the entry into Aqua Minerale there. Jackson Suslan Harlow unfortunately coming through thanks to our modem for getting that one back to us. But Kazuki Umeshima is trying to get past Sam Black for what is effectively now fourth, that's sixth position. Is now Sam Blacklock after Brady has unfortunately dropped out of this race. So now trying to get past Sam Blacklock and has been showing large amounts of aggression throughout these last couple of laps, and even forcing Sam Blacklock into a kind of half-heartedly defensive line there, and it just is giving Kazuki a little bit more confirmation that what he's doing is working. He's got Sam on the back foot here, and he's applying a good amount of pressure, and Sam Blacklock is feeling it. You can tell that in the way that he is driving the car at the moment, but still retains that position at the moment. So that's after Brady's actually dropped from the server now. He has reconnected, and I have no doubt that he will want to see this one out. But Ethan Warren is now in the hot box for the final position on the podium, and Jordan Ross has given that spot back to Cooper Webster. Now, we did see those guys trade places early in the race. I wonder if they've decided to trade back as a bit of a thank you gesture in the last portion of this event. Kazuki Umeshima is still hunting down the Logitech GL to C Sports car of Sam Blacklock, and this time the overspeed is immense. To the outside goes Kazuki Umeshima, so strong on the brakes. He's going to hold the outside line. Sam Blacklock locks up an inside tyre there, but manages to pull it up and forced to back out of that move. Great driving from both competitors there, but Sam remains in sixth position for the time being, and now up 8 spots from his starting position.
Yeah, great move by Sam there to finally, well, to hold on from Kazuki. Kazuki, a very experienced driver, having done many seasons in the iRacing World Championship Grand Prix series, so he's got a lot of experience and a lot of pace behind him, so he's definitely trying his best to try and get past Sam Blacklock, who's doing a fantastic job in that Logitech G Altus Esports Ford Falcon at the moment to hold off such an experienced and fast driver such as Umeshima.
You're absolutely right, and it's one of the great things about just iRacing in general, I guess, is that you can have guys who perhaps specialize in cars that are drastically more, complicated, and different in a lot of ways to these V8 Supercar drivers, but they can just come in, they can jump on the service, and they can practice a little bit.
Oh, moment!
And that is contact! And that is big contact between the two drivers, and it's gonna happen again! And they've both almost gone off there, and that was very unfortunate indeed. And is that Kazuki Umeshima out of this race? Surely not. Surely it can't end just like that, but it does for Kazuki Umeshima. The, as you were saying, former F1 World Championship driver has just been in this race due to the incident count, and it was a very strange incident there. Looks like Kazuki just had an internet dropout for a second there, and we'll get a modem simulation replay of that incident because it was a particularly strange one. And then that was Sam coming back on the track there. So this is coming down to the final section of corners here. So we'll just look back on board from Sam Black, and you can see that gap. I mean, it was very large to begin with. Kazuki maybe out braking himself possibly, and as you see from the on-screen footage, difficult to say what happened. And another driver has been DQ'd who we have been focusing on for so much of this race. Brendan Hobson is out. And I didn't forget that we had some great racing here at Imola Cam, but I had forgotten, and now thinking of it, how many people just get to... So much going on. Someone always seems to bite the dust, or multiple drivers seem to bite the dust here.
Yeah, the incident limit is the incident is a bit harsh here with the off tracks especially, and it's very, very easy to get them in some corners, so it's no real surprise that some drivers have been DQ'd. But at the moment on screen, Ethan Warren has caught up to Brett Loxton for second position, and with only about 2 laps to go, it's going to be on between these two. Ethan's done 2/10 quicker that last lap.
Yeah, he's been catching him the last few laps and has really been pushing the limits of his Astro Gaming Alta C Sports Holden Commodore there. Doesn't have much, if any, damage on that car at the moment. Maybe a little bit of quarter panel damage. Most cars seem to have that at this stage of the race. Definitely in these last couple of laps, he's been looking extremely strong, and I'm sure that the scent of an extra step on the podium is only spurring him along even further. He's only got a lap and a half now, though, to make anything work for him. That gap, though, is dropping just bit by bit, ever so gently. Andrew Gill has almost made his way back into 10th position. Guy Leach has been holding on to Andrew for the last few laps and doing a great job of doing so. We've seen Andrew super fast in this car in the last few rounds, and just an unfortunate incident earlier in the race putting him out of contention here. Damien Johnston leading the last little train of cars. A couple of fan favorites in there, Lee Ellis and Brian Borg at the back of this train. Greg Sharp in there as well as believe Job Stewart is also in that pack there. So those guys still scrapping it out towards the end of this race. And the gap is under half a second, just by 1/1000th of a second. Now, Ethan Warren, this is critical here that he gets the run. Good traction. Nice job there from Ethan. 4/10 of a second is still a big gap. And I don't think that he's going to have much to play with down into turn number 1 here. But definitely sets him up for an opportunity to make anything work anywhere else. And on the last lap of the race, anything is pretty much go as far as most drivers are concerned, I'm pretty sure. So he's looking pretty good, still pretty far back at the moment, and closing in on that section of the track though on Brett Loxton, who's been doing a great job. And that train we were just talking about earlier, Damien Johnston and Job Stewart, who are at the head of that train, have just gone to the very pack, and Job's going to push Lee Ellis down the straight. And he's going to have to maybe give him a couple of pushes and then go for one final move at the end here. Lee Ellis is only just going to leave the car, which is fair enough. That's all. And he's trying to unsettle his opponent there, but Job Stewart's going to go down the inside. Lee Ellis trying to look for a little bit of room there to work with. Not going to be able to find it, though, as they start the last lap of this race. Just ahead of them, though, Ryan Borg starting to attack Greg Sharp, who's inherited that position up into what is now essentially a 14th position, which is a great result for them. But this battle looks like it's going to go the very wire into the last couple of corners. But for Dane Warren, he has already rounded the last corner. He's almost going to lose it before he comes over the line. And he is the 2019 Season 1 Aussie Driver Search iRacing official V8 Supercars champion. And he will be going to the track in a real Aussie Driver Search car, 2 in fact. And he is going to be driving a Toyota AE86 racing car as well as a BMW. And hopefully he'll be doing that down at Phillip Island so I can join him and we can bask in all the glory of his prize together. So congratulations to Dane Warren, who is the season champion, with Brett Loxton finishing this race in 2nd position. Ethan Warren, Dane's younger brother, doing a fantastic job to put 2 Warrens on the podium there. Just having a look at this battle for 14th and 15th. Brian Borg and Greg Sharp. Sharp going to have the last laugh though as they come across the line. And the Gone Rogue Motorsports entry there of Damian Johnston, well, could have been a few positions better for him at the end of the day there. And we see now, in fact, is that Damian Johnston just there? Are we going to see some burnouts from Dane Warren? He's pulled over on the side of the road. No. Shame on you, Dane. No offense. But we will take you to our unofficial but official race results now. Dane Warren for Logitech G Esports wins the race here, round 12 at Imola, and also takes home the championship and a drive in an Aussie Driver Search racing car. Brett Loxton came home 2nd in the KRF Motorsports entry, with Ethan Warren, Dane's younger brother, coming home in the final podium position in the Astro Gaming Altus Esports entry. Cooper Webster for Evolution Racing Team coming home ahead of his teammate Jordan Ross to put 2 ERT cars in the top 5. Great job from them. Sam Blacklock put on a valiant effort to make that 6th position stick and finding his way through the field in his Altus Esports car. Marlon McMullen for CMR team came home in 7th position. Michael Taliancic for the Pursuit Sim Racing team came home in 8th. Jackson Suslin Harlow, well, he's one of the few drivers who finished where he started. Started 9th, finished 9th. Consistent night for him in the TTL Esports car. And Chris Coxhead managed to get himself into the top 10 in his Suva Racing entry.
Just behind Coxhead, we have Andrew Gilliam in 11th, who did a fantastic job to come from all the way in the back of the field to finish 11th in the end. So great drive from him. Guy Leach in 12th, 13th goes to Justin Wallace, 14th, 15th, Greg Sharp and Brian Ball. Lee Ellis, the fan favourite, in 16th. 17th goes to Damian Johnston, 18th, Joe Stewart, 19th, Michael Cracknell, Corey Preston, rounding out the top 20, and then we go back to Kirsten Smart and Jamie Stovall, who are the final finishers on the lead lap before we go back to the rest of the field. Kip Stevens, Brenton Hobson, Kazuki Omashima, Brady Myers, after that unfortunate disconnection, Dean O'Brien, James Duckworth, Jack Boyd, Emily Jones, and round out the field is Mitch McLeod.
Yes, and very unfortunate to see the list of drivers who unfortunately did not see the end of this evening's race. Some really big names in there, and names that would have been great to see at the end of the grid, or at the end of the race, pardon me. But it has been an absolutely fantastic race this evening. We said Imola doesn't disappoint, and once again, it has lived up to this expectation that we have put on it so heavily. But this was obviously the final race of the Aussie Driver Search iRacing V8 Supercars official series for the first season this year. We will have a 1 week break and then be returning once again with Aussie Driver Search, continuing the partnership. And we will be starting that series at Watkins Classic Boot, which is an absolutely fantastic racing circuit. I have to say, one of the best circuits for racing. So if you thought the action was good here at Imola tonight, I'd almost say that it's going to be even more spectacular at the Watkins Classic Boot circuit. But until then, there is still plenty of action coming up on the iRacing Esports Network and on Sim Speed as well. Tomorrow we have a special race as well. We've got Tristo's race for charity, which is always a fantastic race to get involved in, and it will be a fun race to be watching as well. On Wednesday, we have the SSA GTE, the Alpine Star Geodesic Racing Sim Sprint Australia Series, which is always a fantastic race. Unfortunately, last week, few connection or server issues put that round out of contention. So a couple of people might be looking for a little bit of redemption there. Some great racing, I would expect for sure. Friday night, we have the end of season fun with Max Bantz. And if you want to get your banter hat on and have a bit of a meme about it, then Max Bantz is definitely for you. Always a fun old time. And the winner is never knows they're in the finishing position until pretty much the very end of the race, which is always a good laugh. And on Sunday, we have V8 Scops. Round number 2 saw a very dramatic first round, and definitely going to be a very interesting season. And many drivers, we saw 150, I think, individual people trying to enter in the pre-qualification for V8 Scops. Obviously, only 80 get through, and only the top 40 plus the winner of the second split get to go into the main game race. So an absolutely astonishing amount of people participating in that. So you can imagine just how close that grid is in the top 40 odd cars. Well, we thank you so much for joining us here tonight on the iRacing Esports Network. Don't forget to smash a like on this button. And if you're watching these races and you haven't subscribed already, what are you doing? Hit the button, hit the bell, so you can catch up with all of the best esports racing stuff, including tons of other broadcasters who are broadcasting to the network as well. If you would like to join us on our local station as well, SimSpeed TV, head over onto us and chuck us a subscribe on our channel. It would be greatly appreciated as well. We have had so much pleasure. Thank you so much as well to you, Cameron, for participating so thoroughly throughout this season. And thank you once again to Jay Kennedy, who always brings us such fantastic pictures all evening, and also gives us commentators the inside word on what's interesting around the track as well. It's been such a pleasure bringing you this season of the Aussie Driver Search V8 Supercars iRacing official series. Until next time, stay well.
This is fantastic. This is GT racing right now.
He's got traction, he's got rhythm, both of them! Maloney!
Oh, he's taken Anderson. Anderson's up top.
Oh my God! Oh! Big crash! Oh my goodness, half the field's gonna get rolled!
Six very close. These guys are want to make their way through the field very quickly.
Oh, there we go!
Oh no! That's massive! This is it! This is over! I can't believe this! Oh my God!
God, what?